businesses have started to recognize that the circular economy can create long-term growth and resilience, while also tackling global challenges such as biodiversity loss, climate change, and waste and pollution. But in order to make the right strategic decisions for this transformation to happen, businesses need to access the right data, they need a baseline to start from, and they need clear objectives to reach. In today's episode, we will be exploring how companies are starting to measure their circular economy performance, but most importantly, we're going to talk about what they learned from this process. Are you ready? Welcome to the Circular Economy Show, where we discuss how to move away from a linear take, make, waste economy towards a circular economy. My name is Stella. I'm part of the team here at the Foundation, where we develop and promote the idea of a circular economy. We engage key actors in the system to make it happen, and we mobilize system solutions at scale globally. Now, this episode is live streamed so that you can take part in the conversation. So wherever you're watching from, LinkedIn, Facebook, or YouTube, do send us your questions and comments so that we can factor them in the conversation. We have an amazing panel of speakers today. The three women we have invited have at least two things in common. They are making waves within their company to lead the transition to a circular economy, and they're measuring their progress. All three companies have been using Circulytics. Now, if you've never heard this word before, Circulytics is a tool that the Foundation developed to help companies measure their circular economy performance and really track their progress towards this circular economy. But I'm not really an expert, so I've invited Nikki Kapp, my colleague, who is part of our data and metrics team, to tell us more about this. Hi, Nikki. So, Circulytics has been running for now just about a year and a half. Can you tell me why we created this? What need did it answer?
Definitely. So there was quite a lot of demand from businesses in our network to have access to a tool from which they could measure their circular economy performance, not just at the product level, but looking at the whole company. And the Foundation had done some work previously to develop circularity indicators more at the material and product level, called the material circularity indicators. So we built on that existing methodology to develop this company level tool called Circulytics. And for businesses, measuring progress against targets is really vital. Think about the fact that they track their cost base, sales figures, more and more carbon emissions and things like water impact. But what about circular economy? More and more businesses are recognizing that that circular economy can help their long-term growth and tackle global challenges like climate change and pollution. But to have a real impact, they need to know how they're performing today relative to others in their industry as well, so that they can really set a direction of travel and measure their progress over time. So we launched Circulytics in January of last year. And since then, we've had nearly 1,000 businesses sign up to use the tool. In fact, today we got to 999 signups, which is really exciting, nearly there at the 1,000 mark. And actually 80% of these companies are outside of the Foundation's network. So it's really encouraging for us to see that, because while it started as a demand from inside our network, we can see that it is addressing a broader need and demand across companies globally.
Wow, we're almost there. I would like to ask someone watching whose company hasn't signed up to just go and do it today so we can get to the 1,000. That would be amazing. But it's really interesting that this tool is really reaching businesses so far and wide. If I understand correctly, any business can sign up and have their circular economy performance measured regardless of their size or the industry they operate in. So how do you make sure the tool stays relevant and pertinent to any business? Because I imagine that, for example, a manufacturing company won't have the same amount of and nature of material flows than, say, a consulting company, right?
Yeah, great question. I think to answer that best, it probably helps for me to give a really brief overview of what we actually measure in Circulytics. So there's 36 indicators in total in the assessment, and those are split into two different categories, the enablers and the outcomes. So we have 18 indicators and enablers looking at the enabling conditions that we've identified with our sounding board to really be essential for companies to move towards circular economy performance in the future. And then in the outcomes, we have more quantitative indicators, also 18 indicators looking at a snapshot of actually how circular companies are today in their performance. So in the enablers, we have indicators across 5 different themes. These are strategy and planning, innovation, people and skills, operations, and external engagement. And those indicators are asked unanimously to all companies, regardless of their industry or whether they or not they use materials and products. And then in the outcomes, we have 6 different categories of indicators. These are products and materials. So this is kind of the meat of the outcomes part of the assessment, which is looking at your material inflows and outflows, how much is being recirculated, how you're designing your products, and so forth. Then we also have a theme of indicators on services. So if you're more of a service-based company or have an arm of your business that has revenue-generating services, how are you designing those to enable the circular economy? Then we look at plant property and equipment assets. So all companies have these types of fixed assets that they invest in long-term. So things like their logistics equipment or their offices. So how are you procuring those assets and what happens to them at the end of their life? Then we also look at water flows. So water that you use in your company if you're in a water-intensive industry. We look at energy. How much renewable energy are you procuring? Because the circular economy model is really built on this foundation of running on renewable energy. And then if you're an energy provider, how much renewable energy are you producing? And finally, indicators on finance. So this is for financial institutions, how they're screening investments and lending opportunities along circular economy criteria, and then how much they're actually financing towards those in US dollars. So for the outcomes section, it kind of varies which indicators you will be asked depending on what industry you're in, whether you use, whether you're in a water-intensive industry, whether you have revenue-generating services, and kind of how you use materials in your business. So that part of the assessment varies a little bit to cater to these businesses that might be quite different in nature.
Right, so you can switch on and off features or indicators in the questions based on the first questions you answer and which type of business you are, okay? And so if I understood 10 correctly, you mentioned 2 themes of indicators, the enabler and the outcome. The enabler, I guess, is telling you how well you are set up for success in the future, so it gives you your circular potential, whereas the outcomes will look at giving a snapshot of how circular your business is currently. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay. So this sounds like a lot of things to gather, lots of data, and we'll be talking about this and hearing firsthand from our guest today what that looks like. But why should companies go through such an assessment? What are some of the benefits they can hope to get from going through it?
Yeah, so Circulytics is really at the moment the most comprehensive tool out there to measure circular economy performance at this whole company kind of scope. And the result of the assessment is a 1-page scorecard, which provides a breakdown of your overall letter score by each indicator theme. So you get, for example, you might get an overall score of B, but then you get a different score by each theme. So in enablers, you have a score for strategy and planning, for innovation, for people and skills, and so on. And the same for the outcomes themes that are relevant to your business. So with that breakdown, the user can really identify potential blind spots in their circular economy strategy and also opportunities for improvement. And the scorecard also demonstrates your company progress over time. So the idea is that companies do this on an annual basis in tandem with their other non-financial reporting, and hopefully they'll be able to see progress over time. It also your company performance benchmarks against other companies in your industry. And this is some feedback that we got from companies who are asking for this type of tool is something that was really essential because circular economy progress and performance can vary considerably by industry. So these insights are really vital for companies that are turning to the circular economy to meet their sustainable development goals and climate change targets. And it enables you as a company to demonstrate how circular your business is. So it helps you provide that transparency to stakeholders such as investors who are increasingly dedicating resources to circular economy activity and actively seeking to invest in businesses that are leading the way forward.
Nikki, I've got just one last question because you mentioned reporting processes quite a lot about enabling transparency and benchmarking. So did we create this tool with the hope that companies would actually disclose their score?
With the hope, yes. It's not mandatory. However, it is encouraged. And we would love to eventually get to a place where there is real transparency and accountability around circular economy performance of businesses.
Okay, thank you. That's super clear. Thanks for helping me out. So if you're also, like me, a bit more visual, or if you've just joined a bit late, let's hear a short recap of what Circulytics is.
Businesses are recognising how circular economy strategies can create long-term success, open up new areas for growth and contribute to thriving communities, and how the circular economy can help them tackle some of the world's most pressing challenges, like climate change, wildlife loss, pollution. However, to make the right strategic decisions, companies need the right data. Circulytics, a tool for measuring the circularity of any business, uses the widest set of circular economy indicators available today. It scores companies on areas such as strategy, innovation and material flows, and provides world-leading analysis and insights from the Ellen MacArthur Foundation. Circulytics gives companies the most comprehensive picture of their circular economy performance, opportunities for innovation, and the ability to measure progress.
Some of you may have recognized here the voice of Ellen MacArthur, our founder. So by now you will have understood that we here at the Foundation really believe that we can't really achieve a circular economy until we can properly measure it. But you don't have to take my word or our word for it. And this is why I would like to introduce you to our panel today. We have invited Cecilia Brännsten, the Environmental Sustainability Manager at the H&M Group. We have Marianne Richeux, who is the manager for the Zero Waste World Program at Brambles, and Ellen Jackowski, Chief Sustainability Officer at HP. And Ellen, I'll start with you if that's okay. Over the years, HP has been setting lots of initiatives, circular economy initiatives, to help tackle climate change. You've got product takes backs, you embed circular design principles in your product development processes. How do you make sure that you measure the impact of all these initiatives on HP environmental footprint?
Well, Stella, thanks so much for having me here today for this important discussion. But first, I want to share HP's purpose, which is to create technology that makes life better for everyone everywhere. And embedded in that message, embedded in our purpose, is sustainable impact. And we chose those words for our sustainability strategy very purposefully. It's not just about the impact that we have at our company to be more sustainable, but across our entire value chain, our suppliers, our channel partners, our customers, and the communities that we serve. Our sustainable impact efforts are really integral to our corporate vision and to make sure that it's embedded in the heart of our company. It's in our design processes. It's in how we manufacture and collaborate and innovate, again, across the entire value chain. And we also recognize that sustainable impact is also a core business strategy, right? It's helping us grow for the future. And in fact, we've started to measure that growth. This past year, it helped drive more than $1 billion in new sales wins. And that's the second year in a row that we've hit that $1 billion number or above, all directed towards our actions on sustainable impact. So we recognize the market is changing. We certainly recognize the needs that our planet has, that we as humans have to create this type of change. So all of these forces are really coming together to help us increase our momentum to transform towards a circular economy. We've set a lot of circular goals and have made some tremendous progress, but of course there's more to do. Some of the goals that we've set, for example, are to use 30% post-consumer recycled plastic content in our personal systems and our print products by 2025. We've also set a goal to eliminate 75% of single-use plastic packaging by 2025. And we're making strong progress. As of 2019, we used over 25,000 tons of plastic, recycled plastic in our personal systems and print products. So that's about 9%. On the way to our goal of 30%, which means we've got a lot more work to do. But we have, additional progress as well. We've sourced over 1.7 million pounds or more than 60 million bottles of ocean-bound plastic and upcycled those into HP's products. We launched the world's first notebook with ocean-bound plastic, display monitor, mobile workstation. We have more than 50 products that use this type of recycled content, preventing it from flowing into the ocean, instead upcycling it into our products. And this has helped us establish strong visions and opportunities. For example, we have the world's most sustainable PC portfolio, due in part to some of those actions that I just mentioned. But again, we are still definitely on the journey. There's so much more to do, and Circulytics for us is going to help us down that path.
Yeah, I guess with such a large portfolio and so many initiatives and goals, you really need a tool to help you track this progress and understand where you are on this journey. Cecilia, coming to you now, we know that most businesses are already tracking their progress against lots of non-financial targets, and H&M is no different. So why do you actually care about measuring your circular economy performance to add to this?
I would say that our circular economy performance is key. Like HP, circular economy is really key to our business strategy and our direction. It will be crucial for our growth going forward. And I would also say that our circular economy agenda is really also a way for us to both engage with, inspire, and meet our customers. And also really adding on to what you just said on circular economy will be one of the most important tools that we have to actually reach our climate goals, for example, our biodiversity agenda. So circular economy is key. And at the H&M Group, we have a vision to become fully circular, and we have a long-term target to become climate positive in our full value chain by 2040. And of course, to be able to reach those visions and goals on a more broader level, we need to measure progress and how we're getting there. So measurement is key. What gets measured gets done, right? So we have a lot of different goals. We set strong objectives. Of course, we have a strong circularity strategy to start with, embedded in our corporate strategy, but also, of course, building that up with key results, short-term goals, mid-term goals, long-term goals. The list can be made long, and we have many goals and more to come, I would say. But to mention a few where we are working on the circular side is, for example, that we have set a goal recently that at least 30% of all our materials will be recycled at 2025 at the latest. And that's actually a milestone target within our broader material goal of having all materials to be recycled or sourced in a more sustainable way by 2030. And that goes for packaging, for interior, and for all our products, basically. So, and on top of that, of course, we have a rigorous circularity agenda looking into our full value chain and ecosystem, going from products to supply chain to our customer journey, including circular design, materials, new circular business models, etc.
Thanks, Cecilia. That sounds like many goals that you have in place. And I imagine that actually when you don't really know where your business is at, it must be quite hard to actually set those goals. So I hope that those can be amended as needed as you discover how you're doing. Marianne, moving on to you now. I'll just say a few words about Brambles maybe to start with, because it's a B2B company, so maybe less well known. Brambles operates in the logistics industry, renting pallets and crates to businesses to enable shipping worldwide, really. And so your business, I guess, is inherently circular because you keep ownership of those assets. But you still, Brambles has still this ambition to become a truly sustainable and regenerative business doing more good. So how does measuring your circular economy performance actually aligns with this ambition to become a fully regenerative business?
But it does fully align because, as you were saying, Stella, we've been operating during 70 years a pooling system of secondary and tertiary packaging that in fact we discovered was a share and reuse model later. And we needed absolutely to understand where we were in the journey to circular economy. So testing tools contributing to the design of Circulytics has been an evident and a pressing need, because there was pretty much nothing when we started looking into, what was after our race to zero, strong with 100% wood of certified sources, 33% of CO2 reduction per unit, zero wood waste to landfill. We wanted to know what was our next big step. So we were at a turning point, and our current agenda, which is quite significant, is first the commitment that we've made to climate ambition, 1.5 science-based targets, and a bit like my colleagues here, to gear towards a nature-positive business and pioneer regenerative supply chains by 2025. So that's quite an overwhelming and ambitious goal that we had. And circular economy is at the heart of this agenda and is actually the key enabler to reach both of the climate ambition commitments as well as our key targets for 2025. What are those targets? Is growing 2 trees for every one we purchase, is obviously carbon neutral operations, upcycle material up to 30% for every new plastic product or packaging we put out, zero waste extended to non-product materials, and optimize the water across the entire Brambles locations network. So as you can see, it's a key enabler. It's really at the heart of everything we're going to have to be doing by 2025. And Circulytics as a tool is core, because there's a lot of measuring systems that's in place that we all do as listed companies, such as GRI, PRI, many assessments and rankings, but measuring holistically all the dimensions of circular economy, understanding, as Nikki was saying earlier, the what and the how, so what we do now and how we equip for the future with enablers, outcomes, grouped in a bunch of themes when you think about it, is the unique privilege that is granted by the Circulytics assessment. So really core for us.
Yeah, it's a really helpful categorization to really know where to start and know where to go. I'd love to talk about, you've all mentioned Circulytics, so you've been through this process, some of you in depth or a couple of times, some of you more as a pilot and really to understand actually what type of data you have. So I'd love to talk about this a little bit and understand what you've learned through this. Cecilia, starting with you, let's talk about gathering the data, because H&M Group, this gathers many brands and it's a huge business. So I imagine it must have been a tremendous process to go through the submission. So I'd love to understand or to hear what have been some of the roadblocks you've encountered through this process, but also what this has enabled within the group.
Yeah, as you say, I think data gathering has actually been one of our major roadblocks. But before I come there, I need to say that we actually did fill in the version 1 as well. That was more of a desktop exercise from the sustainability department at that time. And after that, we also joined the sounding board of Circulytics, also to be able to influence the development and make it more relevant for our industry. So we used this version 2 of Circulytic really as a pilot within the H&M Group to see both, of course, to engage with the wider organization. So we had a collaborative network of representatives from our different brands and functions helping out to gather the data. And that was good, of course, both from an awareness raising perspective, getting the focus on these key metrics and this data. And then, of course, we have the actual data gathering, and that's where we bumped into some problems. Actually, being such a large company, we have many different systems. We have different or slightly different ways of measuring things, and getting that into this format was quite time consuming, I have to say, and also quite manual. So I think what we learned is really to what was actually already a focus of ours, but to really get to the data gathering tech and our systems on top, because that's what we need to prioritize going forward. But I also would like to say that I think Circulytics and circular economy targets in particular is a really good way for us to see, to prioritize what's important, to see and identify how are we doing, what kind of gaps do we see, and I think this assessment has been really good in that sense. Where do we need to speed up and accelerate? And data gathering is absolutely one of those areas, but also, of course, more topic-specific areas as well, where it could actually inform our future target setting and strategy making as well. So it's been very useful, but really much a learning journey so far.
Right, so a big undertaking, given that you've got lots of different processes to actually gather data. So it would your group would benefit from harmonizing those systems in place. But I also hear that this exercise was helpful in raising awareness around what H&M is trying to achieve in the group.
Yes, absolutely, integration.
Thank you. Marianne and Ellen, I have a very similar question for both of you. I'll start with you, Marianne. I'd love to hear what has this submission, this exercise highlighted for your business. What have you learned really about what you need to do differently or where you need to make more progress?
So the first thing I would say, first and foremost, what Circulytics has been confirming is what we were hoping in silence, is that we do operate a circular business model. So that was bringing a name onto this pooling, share and reuse model that we were operating. More strategically, Circulytics, as similar to H&M and Cecilia, what Cecilia was saying, is what it has brought to us is a prioritization approach. Is we took the assessment 3 times. We're also beta testers, part of the sounding board, and by doing that, we've actually obtained 3 times a refreshed 360-degree picture across all of activities, and this has allowed us to better judge areas where we needed to dedicate time, people, and energy first, and then for the rest, we could just continue as we were. It has also enabled us to consciously, I would say, capitalize on the strengths that we've been identifying. One of them is the robustness of our reporting system and the strength of our circular design on products and services that is nearly to 100% recirculation rate. So I would say, once we've said that, Circulytics has also been an incubator of our 2025 strategy before we've launched it. We've been able to test our plans, fine-tune certain of our tactics, especially on materials, and namely wood with reforestation, and upcycling, and energy with renewable energy, including Scope 3. And finally, from an insight perspective, the new version of Circulytics that we took recently has uncovered 2 opportunities where we could contribute and do more. One is water. not to say that we didn't have a strategy on water, but our materiality study had not highlighted the inherent opportunities we had to get more impact. And clearly, when we know how important water is with biodiversity, once we would have tackled greenhouse gas emissions, it's really, every effort will count on this land. And the last opportunity that it highlighted has been property, plant, and equipment assets. Whereas we had a reporting base that is already robust and comprehensive, we could actually go beyond by linking this to our procurement tracking and measure inherently its circularity. So those are interesting challenges to come.
Thank you, Marianne. And just to clarify for the audience, we've been talking about different versions of Circulytics. Basically, it's the same tool that has been refined last year, and it just means that the list of indicators has been extended, including water as an example that Marianne just shared, but it's very much the same tool. Ellen, coming at you now, did anything surprise you from the results you got through Circulytics? Could you share an example of a theme where you're now focusing more attention as a result of doing the submission?
Well, as I mentioned, HP set goals around circularity. Typically, they're anchored in the year 2025, so we're certainly not there yet. So it would have been surprising if we scored a perfect score, right? We know we are on the journey. So in that sense, it really did help us understand where we're at on the path towards a fully circular and regenerative economy. Circulytics was definitely comprehensive for us to take a look across, again, our value chain and all the different rings of circularity that we're investing in. So starting at our outer rings of using more recycled content, it helped us gain more insights as to where we need to accelerate our progress there. And then moving towards those inner rings around reuse, it also helped us validate our strategy to continue to shift from more of a transactional model to a services-based model where we're focusing more on reuse. So the self-assessment, helped us also understand, I think, similar to the others who've mentioned, where our internal processes are strong and where they're weak in terms of being able to measure where we're at and the systems we need to put in place to automate more of the data gathering. So as we go forward, we can get a better measurement because the data and the picture we have of the circularity that's happening across the company is more specific and more precise. It is, really important to us that we know what's working and what's not working and where there are opportunities for us to do better and to continue to scale. One of the other things that we did once we got our initial score, we submitted again. So similar to what Marianne was talking about at Brambles, they submitted several times to see, where they're improving. We submitted again, and that second submission was actually based on a vision that we have and goals that we're contemplating setting so that we could see is the vision and the next level of goals that we're working on, are those going to push us to where we need to be from a circular point of view? Now, obviously, the Circulytics methodology is going to continue to strengthen as we all, are in it for the first times and we're testing the methodology. We're providing feedback as well for it to get stronger, and the Ellen MacArthur Foundation continues to find ways to strengthen it as well. But that was a really interesting exercise for us to see where are we today based on our current score and the vision that we're crafting, the actions we're planning, will that put us where we want to be? So lots of interesting insights from the program.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting to hear how you're using this tool to either review the strategy that you have in place or to confirm it and make sure the targets you have set are in the right direction and ambitious enough yet realistic. So yeah, really helpful to hear. Cecilia, we have a question that has come from the audience that will shoot to you because I was going to ask actually what is next for H&M, how you're about to use these insights. So the question for you, Cecilia, is what are the primary areas to improve that you have seen as a result of taking the Circulytics?
Yeah, it's basically very much interlinked, of course, but with what is our next step. But I would say what Circulytics did was actually confirming that our current agenda on, of course, having a strong strategy and goals and targets, but we also have to accelerate and move from strategy to action, to go from pilot to scale. I think it's become clear in this tool that it's not only, it's really looking at this as a circularity performance index where we can actually compare each other with others as well, both within our industry and beyond. I think is very helpful to steer our agenda going forward. So, and as I said, I would say the data and tech support, or the tech enablers that we actually need to speed up. That was something that was a focus before, but this has made it even more evident. And I think the tool has really showed where we need to accelerate more. I think circular design, scaling up circular business model and circular design is the key focus, but the tool is also showing that we need to speed up there. So I think it's confirming a lot of our current agenda and our goals and actions. But as you said, Ellen, as well, we're not fully circular yet, definitely not. This is a journey for us, but I think this tool is a really good way of measuring our performance and measuring our progress and looking into how we should prioritize and what kind of gaps we need to fill and how we should speed up. So I think it's very useful and helpful in that sense.
Yeah. Thank you, Cecilia. Marianne, similarly, looking forward, how are you looking to use these insights to inform your wider strategy and take very specific actions for to transform your business towards a circular economy?
So as I said earlier, Circulytics is both a unique measurement tool and a significant source of insights for us. So it is a strong asset that will help us reach our 2025 targets and also our climate ambition commitment. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to keep on taking the assessment on a regular basis and use the insights to test and fine-tune our tactics and hopefully in excelling in our quest of circularity. But because it has proven to be so instrumental for us, we will also take part into the promotion of its adoption within our ecosystem to help our partners understand where they are also in this transformational journey. And we intend to promote it also beyond our ecosystem by taking an active part into the promotion of circular economy benefits to a wider audience. And this is actually part of our 2025 targets to inspire 1 million acts of change. And finally, what we're going to do also is use it with through our global customer-centric co-innovation program called Zero Waste World to accelerate and accompany the move to circular practices and solutions at scale within supply chain. So from a company perspective, we will pursue our engagement to improve its design and refining existing indicators, especially with climate warming consequences already disrupting the landscape in which we are. We'll closely look also into opportunities to decouple on our impact on biodiversity through reforestation, when wood shortage is a real threat globally today and even more tomorrow. And finally, we hope that this will help us also build what is the after 2025.
Thank you, Marianne. I think you picked up on I want to pick up on a point that we hadn't mentioned earlier. It's about how your partners, your suppliers or your clients can actually use Circulytics, because I think the more the value chain use such a tool to measure their how circular they are and therefore their materials they use, this is transparency and data that you can use to then assess your own business. So really interesting to understand that you will be pushing your partners to also measure their own circular economy performance. Ellen, finishing with you. Similarly, what are some of the actions that you're about to take based on this one-page Circulytics scorecard that you received?
Well, so the fact that the score is simple, right? You get a grade like when you were in school, and that grade communicates, to you. You have an emotional reaction when you see it. Is that score good? Are you happy with it? Or is it not that great? And you need to find more energy and momentum to improve. So one of the things that we're doing is actually taking our score internally around to all the various teams who are responsible for helping us accelerate our progress towards a circular economy. So sharing that information internally, bringing more awareness to where we're doing well and where we need to continue to improve, and then leveraging that momentum to accelerate. So we're on a bit of a roadshow with it internally to make sure everyone is aware and they understand the focus, where we need to work on improving our plans, accelerating our actions. So that's the main thing that's going on. But as well, what's coming up next for us is, as I mentioned, we submitted a score based on where we're at today, but also on our new vision that we're crafting. So after that exercise and the way that we've been able to strengthen that vision, we're going to be taking that external. So we'll be making some bold commitments shortly and announce what we think are some of the most ambitious and comprehensive goals around climate action and our transformative approach to a circular economy. Earth Day is coming up, so stay tuned for some big announcements from HP.
Great. Yeah, we're just a bit early now to announce these.
Just a little.
Nikki, bringing you back in the conversation, I'd love to hear also what is next for Circulytics.
Hi, yeah. So we are continuing to kind of iterate the methodology, keeping it exactly the same structure, same indicators, but just tweaking it slightly to continue to make it easier to follow and understand for users. And another thing that we're working to implement over the next few months is aligning Circulytics to the Sustainable Development Goals. So we want to be able to show companies how their performance around circular economy is also helping them reach their goals aligned to the Sustainable Development Goals that are material to them. And another area that we're continuing to work on is on the benchmarking feature. So I mentioned that we have industry level benchmarking as a feature in the scorecard, and we only provide this benchmarking when there is enough data collected in a certain industry to keep those companies anonymized, so all the data remains anonymous.
And just to get
so we're really just trying to grow the number of data sets that we have from companies and trying to encourage companies to submit and get involved so that we can continue to refine the level of industry level benchmarking available.
Yeah, because earlier we talked about those 999 signups, and those are companies who have signed up for an account but haven't gone through the full assessment, so we don't have their data there. Just to get an idea, a benchmark, in order to set a benchmark, how many submissions would you need for a set industry?
So we've set a threshold at about 5 companies, and what we're doing at the moment for industries where we don't have enough data is we've kind of grouped relevant industries into an archetype of industry. So for example, at the kind of higher level archetype of a consumer goods, once we have 5 submissions in that broader classification, we can offer benchmarking at that archetype level. And then once we get enough submissions in textiles and apparel, for example, where the H&M Group sits, then we would be able to refine that benchmarking further at the really specific industry level.
Great, thank you so much. I think it's time for us to close the conversation here. So thank you so much for your time and for all your honest testimonies, really telling us the story on how you are evolving on this journey to measuring your circular economy performance. If there's one takeaway I get from this, it has come from Ellen, who said it's really not about getting this perfect score, right? But rather it's really about accessing the right data, setting up the right processes and systems, you were saying, Cecilia, to collect that data, and so that you can identify the areas where there is the biggest potential for improvement to be made. So yeah, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you at home for watching this episode. Remember that Circulytics is a free tool, and if some of these conversations have sparked your interest, you can head to circulytics.com to sign up for an account. We will be streaming here again in 2 weeks and every 2 weeks from now on at the same time. If you want to see what's upcoming, you can head to the Foundation's website and find out more about the upcoming episodes. The best way to stay up to date with our content is to subscribe to our YouTube channels, or to follow our our Facebook page or Twitter account, and you will be notified every time we go live. And if you want to help us out, please do like this video. We will see you in 2 weeks at the same time. Thank you.